You're listening to Dark Matter Radio with your host, Ronnie.
Like to wear sunscreen. Without sunscreen, the skin is at risk to a host of problems, ranging from a harsh sunburn to skin cancer. There are two types of UV rays that harm the skin, UVA and UVB. UVA rays cause skin to age. They penetrate deep into the dermis, where they damage collagen that makes skin elastic and smooth, resulting in wrinkles. UVA rays also indirectly damage DNA. They generate free radicals, such as reactive oxygen species, which in turn cause DNA mutations. UVB rays directly damage DNA and cause sunburn. Damaged skin cells trigger an inflammatory response, which is the source of the sunburn's redness. Cells beyond repair die off, causing the sunburn to peel. In cells that don't die, unrepaired DNA damage caused by UVA or UVB rays can accumulate and lead to skin cancer. Sunscreen protects the skin from UVA and UVB rays. It contains UV filters, which form a protective barrier over the skin by either absorbing or reflecting UV rays. To increase its ability to block UV rays, researchers are currently working on adding antioxidants to sunscreen.
And it turns out that the molecule melanin, actually, when we mess with genetics and stuff, one of the ways in which we can do it is to use things like ultraviolet light to actually splice the genes in the cells and actually alter the genetics or to get things to, things we put in to actually take so that we can almost microsurgically implant them in the cells. The thing is, if these cells have got a lot of melanin in them, it's dark pigment, it tends to absorb that light and diffract it and turn it into vibrations, etc. And then the light just doesn't get where it's really supposed to go. And so really, in the discovery, I think perhaps even accidental.
It's a special, do you want to explain the special about melanin and how it protects the cell, the DNA inside the nucleus? That's very important.
Part of the reason you can't do these experiments, where there's a lot of melanin around, the melanin actually in a lot of people, in black people, it's actually spread out through the skin. It spreads out through the cells and covers everything. But even in a lot of white people, the melanin actually will coat the nucleus of the cell, and therefore the DNA, your central DNA, even in white people, can be actually well protected from the actions of the ultraviolet light.
There's no doubt in people with higher melanin, natural higher melanin, that it's far more likely that melanin will be coating the nucleus, the cell wall of the nucleus of the DNA. And the point about that is that ultraviolet light, which is often used to splice DNA, is blocked by that melanin. It absorbs it. It doesn't allow it in to interfere with the DNA. And it could well be, and this is Nigel's thesis, that this was a blocker for them when they were trying to genetically alter the species. And therefore, when maybe just out of random mutation something like an albino came along, they discovered, wow, we can get straight in. And it may well be that the paler-skinned nation, people on the Earth, maybe have that pale skin because of this genetic experimentation to make things easier for them to work on human DNA. And in fact, Professor Steve Jones argues that this thing about vitamin D being, paler skin being there to allow vitamin D to be absorbed and so on, all these theories about why pale skin happened in the first place, he believes it's not an adequate explanation. There is no real explanation or justification for the need for pale skin at all.
Yeah, because I think if
Dark skin is always an advantage in every, so no real explanation or justification for the need for pale skin at all.
Yeah, because I think if
Dark skin is always an advantage in every circumstance.
there's more to, well, they went to live in the north where there's less sun,
Yes.
so therefore their skin changed colour. Yeah, but that's not
No,
the case.
according to Professor Steve Jones, an eminent professor of biology, that is absolute nonsense.
Right, okay.
There's just no reason at all for pale skin.
You want to absorb more light.
Thank you for coming to Dark Matter Radio. So what you just heard there in the last commentary was the reason why Dr. Layla, Africa, when he was explaining about melanin and the melanin conferences that happen every 4 years, and why no carbon-based being was ever invited to the conference, was because of that very little snippet of a conversation that you heard, stating that this is the reason why they were experimenting. This is the reason why they created certain beings. It's interesting. Rewind this, listen to it again, and again. Let it sink in. This is Ronnie McLean for Dark Matter Radio. Hope you're enjoying. Don't forget to subscribe. Pass this along.